Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, reporting live from my cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law. And I have got with me today two fabulous authors, Robert Gwaltney, and he has a new book coming out for 2022 called The Cicada Tree. It's a novel. And I have the wonderful Malibu, California author, Claire Fullerton, who's got Little T and Morning Dove, and she's working on a new book. And tell us about your fur baby before she jumps off, Claire.
Thank you so much. That's probably wise. She's not used to really being held, but this is Lishat, and she is about 19 years old, and she's a very small cat. I love her. She's in great shape, very spry, very affectionate, speaks full paragraphs. And my ritual before I go to bed every night is to brush Lishat with 3 different brushes. One to get the tangles out. The other is a Burt Bees brush that she loves and she purrs the whole time. And then I have another little brush for her kitten face, and she loves that because she moves her head from side to side. And she's just a wonderful cat. And if I don't do it on her schedule every night before I go to bed, she will track me down in the house and start getting pushy. Isn't it time to come brush me? Every single night. And so, yes, she lives in, I have a big day bed in my writing office. And she likes to just camp out on the day bed. She has a series of pillows, and she doesn't really engage much with our 3 German Shepherds. They're curious about her. But there's no big drama, but she just kind of keeps away from them. And so, yeah, 3 German Shepherds, and I'm going to share the picture of them. And this is Lishat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful cat. I've had many black cats. I had Harley and Boo, and I had Rambo. Rambo was my male rescue cat that ran off down the street because the judge's wife had a bunch of female cats. And I was walking by her house one day and she says, "Kathy, did you know Rambo has moved in?" I go, "Where? I can't find him anywhere." And she goes, I hope you don't mind that I've kind of adopted him. And I said, "I love Rambo." And she goes, "But my girls love him too." He was fixed. He was totally fixed. But I had to go to her house to see Rambo. And he was beautiful, beautiful cat. But I've got this little Spitfire Fig running around, and I'm going to bring it on camera later. It's right now playing with Rush. They're playing hiss tag. They hiss at each other. And they don't hurt each other, but it's a daily routine, and they're awake. You know, cats supposedly sleep 23 hours of a day. Do you find that?
Yeah, they
You look so pretty. Your hair looks marvelous.
Well, I've got these floor to ceiling sliding glass doors, and so it's natural lighting coming in. My hair's not that fabulous. I think it's just good lighting.
Well, I put in my dog ears because I thought, and my beautiful cat skiing jacket.
There we go. And they were at the top of the stairs, and I was walking up, and I said, let me go get my camera. Oh, and I was saying just that Sorsha is in the middle. She's
okay. I've got to I want to get a picture of that, of you holding up. That's pretty funny. Okay. Tilt it a little bit more the other way. There, I got a glare going.
Well, I'm seeing it too. So let me.
I think if you tilt it one of the ways, it'll go up. There. Okay, hold it. I got it. Anyway, I love your dogs. They're beautiful. And tell me how you got your pets.
Well, I'll tell you the story. And we had 2 German Shepherds many years ago. Let's say, I'm trying to think now, close to 8 years ago. And they ended up dying within 3 months of each other. And they were 2 years apart, not from the same tribe. And one of them got degenerative myelopathy, which is kind of like Lou Gehrig's disease. And what it does is it's muscular, and their brain isn't communicating with their hind legs. And over time, they lose the ability. And it turns out that it's genetic in Bouviers and German Shepherds and sometimes boxers and all of this. And we didn't get either dog from a reputable enough German Shepherd breeder. And we learned the hard way. And although I give money to German Shepherd rescues in Hernando, Mississippi, and wherever else I do, to support them, I will never, ever again get a full breed dog without proper paperwork, because it's a heartbreaking end game. And with German Shepherds, especially, there's a lot of inbreeding that people will do in order to, make money from these dogs. And so we found a line online that's in Temecula, California, and they breed from Germany. In other words, the sire, and the bitch, as they're called, are from Germany. And so when they have the litters, whatever. So when our first shepherd died, and the vacancy was so big, I said to my husband, I'm not going to be one of these people that says I'm never going to get, because I'm not going to do it. And we went on and we got a puppy that was a German import, and that's our male Ronan, and he has a passport. He's from Germany.
Oh my gosh.
Ronan's the one laying down.
So he's a German.
Yeah, so he was born on a farm in Germany with the pasture land, and that we should all live that way, the way where Ronan came from. And he is steady, dependable, predictable, trainable, and I'm saying nothing neurotic about this steady, all male dog. And then our second shepherd died, and there we were with Ronan the puppy, and we ended up getting a female from the same outfit. So her parents were from the German lines, but they were both in America. They had a litter. And so we got the female. And then 6.5 years into it, I said to my husband, I hate to say I've got puppy fever. And I said, but I do. And I said, what's going to happen with Ronan and Kaylee, which is an Irish word. It means a musical party. I said, Ronan and Kaylee are the same age. They're 4 months apart, and we're going to be dogless again. And I said, I see it coming. Let's get a puppy. Well, we're on 20 acres here. We have a lot of land, and that's
amazing in Malibu. I mean,
yeah, and it's amazing. Yeah, we've been out here 20 years, and it's now fenced in after the fires. And so it's so conducive that if you're going to have 2 full-grown dogs, what's another? And so it was the smartest decision we could have made, because these 2 shepherds, Ronan and Kaylee, raised the puppy. I mean, we barely had to do anything, because they were like, okay, here's the program. We accept no shenanigans. This is the rhythm we've got going. Join the pack right now at 8 weeks old. So Sorsha never knew, and that's another Irish name. Sorsha never knew, she went from her puppy litter to being with this other pack. And she's the most well-adjusted dog. I mean, they all really are. So
I've seen you running with them on the,
they're a large part of my all day, every night, that we're the kind of people that they sleep in the room with us. We have 3 dog beds in the bedroom. We have 3 dog beds in the kitchen. I mean, my mother would laughed. Well, she's no longer with us, but she said, Clea, you simply have to get a perspective. And I thought, you don't understand. I mean, if you're going to have dogs like this, they're pack animals, and they want to be around you all the time. And it's just the way it is, so I'm a little over the top over these dogs, but I make no apologies. They're worth it.
Was your mother of the mindset that animals were outside of the house?
Well, I grew up in a museum, and everything was
breaking. I've seen your mother's house.
Yeah, and so it's just the way that it was. But I think that they had a Jack Russell Terrier, and
they're so
and that little thing, stuck like glue to my stepfather, and so that was that story, with that dog. But a German Shepherd is like, get a horse, for all the managing you have to do with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're beautiful, but I did not know you had the cat. So that's a fascinating story. I'm finding that most authors, and the reason why we did this today was because so many of our authors, if we've been doing the Zooms, is the dog will bark in the background or the cat will run across the back of the couch. And I thought, how many of everybody had, pets? So I thought, well, it's Valentine's Day. We love our animals. I mean,
Yes.
they're like my constant companions, and we have one bed, mine, and they go to bed before me. So when I go in, it's just like scooting cats.
I saw your picture today, Kathy.
Oh my God, I couldn't make my bed. I was like, I had started making it, and they were so, but they know something I don't know. We've got a winter storm coming in that's going to be, everything's canceled here. All churches, all events.
Really?
It's ice. I walked out to the mailbox and it's all ice. It's like tears on all the little branches. But now they're saying that this winter storm's going to blow in. There's going to be rain, maybe snow. So it's going to be interesting. Valentine's. It's coming in.
It is. Well,
So,
can you hold up the picture? Do you have it on your camera?
of the cats?
The cats in the bed? Because it's perfect.
Oh, I got a better one that's even funnier.
Well, let's see it.
Oh, there they are. Can you see
And
it?
is that your bed?
Yes. And I had started making it, but the funniest picture that I just put up, well, here's Faralina.
Oh, she's beautiful.
She's feral. She came to my house. She was 4 weeks old. And my dog brought her up to the house in his mouth. He was an outside Jack Russell, and he brought her to me and put her down, and she was just traumatized. And I brought her in, and for 4 years, I couldn't touch her. And now she sleeps on my head every night. I've had her about 13 years. And she is the strongest cat I have, but she's a scaredy cat. And, well, it's not, but anyway, that's Faralina. Then she's my second oldest cat. No, she's my oldest cat. My other cat is Rush. Rush is she rules the roost. Nobody.
Well, they look similar.
She's just a little whip. She's kind of a skinny cat. She's very sleek. The Faralina is more fluffy and her fur is very rough. But this cat is a terror. I mean, it runs everything. And then there's this little munchkin. She looks really big, but she's really tiny. She's just really close up to the camera. But is that the most human looking cat face ever? Because she looks at
the colors in her.
She's like a black cat that somebody threw orangey gold paint on. But the cat, when I hold this cat, it looks up at me. It understands everything I say. It reminds me, I had a little black cat named Boo that was like that and would just let me cradle it like a baby. In fact, I wrote the Pulpwood Queen's Tiara Wearing Book Sharing Guide to Life with this kitten to cat on my chest. I'd type here and it just lay right here on the shelf. And, but I am an animal person. My mother believed that animals were not allowed in the house. She grew up on a farm, and you keep your animals outside, but we always snuck them in. I can remember as a child, her coming into the bedroom. She goes, "I know you got a cat in there." And I put it in the bottom drawer of our chest of drawers. What was I thinking? And anyway, and then we've had strays show up that we always kept outside. But my sister is an even bigger, well, both my sisters are animal lovers, but my sister Karen has had up to 27 cats at a time. She's an animal, people know it. And she lives in a Victorian house.
Where?
In Jefferson, Texas. It's huge, but none of the cats, she has a complete quarters for them outside their home that they built. And you would never know she had a cat because she's OCD as far as house cleaning. I go, "You must just constantly be cleaning." She goes, "Pretty much," but she loves, and they love her. In fact, when we were kids, if we ever had a stray show up, they'd be the family dog. They were always Karen's. They all, except for the cats. Cats always love me. So I've had Gosh, I've had a lot of cats. And we were talking before we went on the air, Robert and I, about how hard it is to lose a pet and whether it's harder for them
It's
to
the worst.
die naturally or of an accident or to put them down. And I said, you know, in all my years of having pets, I've never gotten to the point where I got to put them down. They've always died naturally or run over, you know, all the accidents that happen to pets. But I think that would
It's
be
the worst.
the worst
It's the
because
worst because, you know, especially with dogs, all they want to do is love you. And I think that Secret, as in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, was really the first of mine. I mean, my husband and I got her when we moved into this house 20 years ago. That we weren't here 5 weeks before my husband said, all right, time to get a dog. And so we got Secret, and they say with German Shepherds, they're a one-person dog, and they are, and she chose me. And that dog thought that she was my mother, and she had the medium length hair. These are normal German Shepherds that I've shown you, but Secret had longer hair, and she kind of had a coat like a timber wolf in terms of the beautiful golden red colorings, and magnificent female and smart as a whip. And I did not get her spayed, and because I didn't have the heart to get her spayed, and you live and learn. And she ended up getting what the risk factor is in not spaying a female. If they go into heat repeatedly and they are never impregnated, that it runs the risk of, you know, these mammary gland cysts. And she got those, and we had to have 2 of them removed. And when we went in to get the second one, we found out that she had inoperable, you know, tumor on her spleen. And I was in Carmel, California at the time with my husband in Secret, and I called my friend who's a vet in Olive Branch, Mississippi, and she does horses, and she has a horse clinic, and she rehabs horses, and she's the definitive horse doctor of that region. And I called her, and I can't believe to this day that she came to the phone because she's busy, but she saw it was me. And I said, I'm standing in a vet office in Carmel, California, and I need your advice right now. And my friend said, you know, you got to let her keep her dignity. And if it's inoperable, and she's, you know, if it's bleeding out right now, and she's an 11-year-old dog, she said, you can't operate on an 11-year-old dog. And she said, you know, Claire, you know, I got to tell you. And I took her advice because she was suffering, and I didn't know it. That Secret had such stoicism to her that I could have asked her to take a walk with me for 4 miles, and she would have done it. I mean, and so it was one of those that I just stepped up and did the right thing for the right reasons at the right time. But I can tell you, Kathy and Robert, afterward, I soldiered on and soldiered through to the point where my husband was like white as a sheet, but good God, how can he? I literally took to my bed for 24 hours after I put that dog. I could not walk down the street in Carmel, California, and we had a little place up there at the time, without just, I just was so used to having that dog right by my knee everywhere I went. It was the worst thing I'd ever went through. I mean, I just thought, I can't take it.
There's Rush. Say goodbye. She doesn't like to be held, so she jumped up and then she's gone. I'm so sorry. It is
it's part of it. You know, going into it that you're going to outlive them. You
Absolutely.
know, so you know that, and it's not for the weak, but again, and I have plenty of friends that say, you know, I can't live through the death of a pet ever again, and I'm never gonna. And I'm like, I'm going to, because there's a dog out there that needs me. You know, that the one thing I am is a German Shepherd parent, and let them come to me. I'll take care of them for 11, 12 years, you know. So
I agree. You know, I had to make sure I was going to be okay before I took another one on. You know, it was a wild year, but Robert has 3 little pups.
I do.
And they are so cute. I shared photos that I took off your Facebook page because they're adorable. But are they anywhere near, Robert?
They're all sleeping in the living room right now in front of the
where's
fire.
a picture?
But do I have the ability to share screen? I can pull their picture.
You know what? If I make you a co-host, you can. Let me make you a co-host. Okay, you're a co-host now. So you should be able to go on share screen.
Okay, let's see.
It's at the bottom of that. There you go. Has started share. There you go. Fur baby parade.
All right. So you see, this is Templeton. He's our long-haired Chihuahua.
Is
He
that
is,
the three little pictures up in the corner?
Look at
yeah,
these
so
dogs.
yeah, so right, you see right up here where my cursor is, you can see all three of them sleeping together.
Yes.
Georgie is the blonde one. He's a little Pomeranian. He's a rescue. He actually was found wandering the streets of Nashville, and he was brought in from Atlanta when he was in bad shape. I mean, he weighed like maybe 3 pounds when
Oh,
we found him.
gosh.
So Timothy and I joked that he was traveling the streets of Nashville pursuing a country western singing career, and he was just down on his luck. But
You guys need to write a song about that.
I love it.
I love
It's so funny.
and then you got Bentley, who's the Yorkshire Terrier. He's the oldest. He's like 15, and
Oh my.
he really is the first pet that's really just been mine. I grew up in a household where we did not have pets. I'm the oldest of 4 boys. And of course, to my mom's credit, she had enough to care for, but my mother is a neat Nick. We took our shoes off when we came inside from out.
Oh yes, yes.
And so we just, in her mind, having a pet inside was just not a clean endeavor.
Yeah.
So I did not have it. I didn't know the love of animals until I met Tim about 17 years ago. So
17
that.
years ago. Wow.
So it's been, and we had a boxer. Tim had a boxer when I first met him. His name was Logan. And then I fell in love with that dog, and I've been an animal lover since. Once I had the opportunity to have an animal, and it's a love like none other. It really, and it's just such quality, that they brought to my life. Growing up, I sort of adopted my mom's view on pets when I was young, as we all do.
Yeah.
And I think, I wouldn't want a pet inside, and they just changed my world. And to this day, I'm leery of individuals, very cautious of individuals who don't have a love for animals.
You are so right.
You want to know how somebody is? Watch how they are around pets.
You are so right.
I say, watch how people treat old people, children, and pets.
Yeah.
And if they can pass all 3 of those, but if you ever see anybody kick a dog,
No, I can't take it. I cannot see children mistreated or animals. It just tears me apart.
You just can't believe people are that unconscious.
No, that would intentionally harm such a helpless thing.
I know.
Well, I think animals teach us the circle of life, because until you've gone through having an animal, I can tear up about it, an animal so close to you that when they die, they're looking at you in their eyes and they die in your arms. It makes you a kinder, more gentler person. And my idea of heaven is, who knows what it's going to be like. But for me, this is what I like to think, that I'm going to see all my animals again that I've lost in a big library.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read and hang out with, Mean Kitty and Fluffy and Tiffany Tiger and, Snicky and all the Coco, all my animals. That's my goal. And we all get along and we're just running in a pack, and it's funny. People say to me, oh, when I die, I want to see my relatives. And I go, there's nobody I really want to see. But my cat, Mean Kitty, my first cat, heaven would be to see that cat again. Yeah.
I can relate to Claire. I think one of the most traumatic experiences of my life is when we had to say goodbye to Logan. He had cancer, and just, we had to make the appointment, and we knew that there, and we had to, there were several days that we had to live through prior
the worst.
And it was just the worst. I thought I was going to die myself.
No, I hear you.
We went on a Thursday. I took Friday off from work, and really, from that Friday through Sunday, I was just, we were just beside ourselves emotionally. It was just such a huge
Totally.
loss.
Have you guys ever read any books by Willie Morris? He was from Yazoo, Mississippi.
Yes.
He
My
did
dog
very
Skip.
well in life. And in fact, there's a award now out in his name. If you can ever win that, you've won it. But he wrote New York Days, Last of the Southern Girls. But his book, My Dog Skip. Oh my gosh. I love the book and I actually love the movie.
I did too.
And his last book that he ever wrote, Taps, he was one author I never got to meet that I always wanted to meet. We all have a dream list, and he was one of those. And he died in his 50s, and he's buried at home in Yazoo, Mississippi. He's also famous for the quote that's saying, "You spend half of your life trying to get away from the place you were raised, and the other half trying to get back home." And I understand that phrase more than anything, because I feel like whenever I go back to Kansas, I feel that pull of it's time to come back home. There goes Rush right now. But there's not, my hometown is gone.
Where is it?
It's just a ghost town. Eureka, Kansas. And, people have tried to revive it, but it was an oil and cattle town. And, the farming is all sold out to corporate. There's a few people hanging in there. The drilling companies and the oil companies have all gone under. And so it's a mile-long main street, and it's a double wide main street. And there's literally the only thing open from the hospital at the top of the hill, a mile away, to the Lions Club Park at the other end, is the courthouse, the grocery store, and the two banks. And that's, there might be a couple little things, but all those stores that we had growing up, the department stores, the Western Autos, the Ben Franklin's, the J.C. Penney's, the Sears, the stationery store, we had all these specialty stores, Frock and Bonnet, all gone. And it's just, they're empty. It's just an empty main street. And so I think, yes, but I need to stay near that grandson. I'm not very far from him. And, but it's a weird feeling to not, now you're from Memphis, Claire. So do you get back home very often? COVID. No.
I do. I have some really good friends there that are still there, and we keep in touch. And I had cause when I went down there with Morning Dove. And so that was in June of 2018 was the last time I was down there, and I was scheduled to go down for Little T, which was released in May. I had 9 events in Memphis, radio, television, everything lined up, and it was all canceled because of COVID. But I think that whenever I release any book that's going to ever be in a bookstore, the first thing I do is schedule all these places in Memphis, because they're accommodating and they all know me, and it's just a good thing. But yeah, Memphis has grown.
Yeah, it's big.
Significantly, and
I love Memphis.
There are now suburbs that weren't there when I was growing up. Cordova and Bartlett and Eads and Collierville is developed, but when I was growing up, it was all, for all intent and purposes, just land out there, and so it's different. I don't understand, nor can I navigate the freeway systems that are now
I know it's
around Memphis. That
a little crazy.
It was totally different when I was growing up, and it overwhelms me to even think about, because, but again, I've been gone for 30 years. But I can say that on the average, once every 2 to 3 years, I have some reason to go to Memphis.
My best friend lives in Collierville, right off the square.
Is that right?
Yep. Elisa Free. She's an artist and she's amazing. She works in a gallery in Memphis. She's just, we met years ago when she did all the graphic arts at the bookstore that I was the children's manager buyer. And I went, last time I saw her was when we had the eclipse. I went to Tennessee because that was supposed to be, and I was there, worked in her studio with her for a week, maybe more.
Where's her studio in Memphis? Do you know the
It's
name?
right at her home, right off the square.
Oh,
And
okay.
I can't think of the name of the gallery, but she took me all over Memphis to every gallery, and the one she works in is pretty well known. I'm trying to think of the name of it. But anyway, I love Memphis. And the last time I left, I of course pulled into the Civil Rights Museum. My
Yeah.
FJ just went, and I just wrote a whole story about that because I ended up following a Jewish couple that were up in age, and he turned to me and he was crying. We got to the drugstore scene and he was crying because he said, I was there that day with my mother. I was a teenager and we didn't know what to do. And he said, I wanted my wife to see it. And this is the first time we've been back since I was a boy. And it was such a powerful, I followed them all the way through it, and I was watching it through his eyes and her eyes. It had a profound effect on me. And of course, there was school buses there with, all these children from all over going through, and it was watching their faces. But I ended up meeting another artist that's a couple doors down in a little gallery who's African American, Andra McCoy, and we've become friends on Facebook now. And Memphis has some special things, and of course, it's got Graceland. I'm a big Elvis fan, so anyway, I love Memphis. And Robert, have you always been from Atlanta?
No. So I grew up in South Georgia, a small town called Cairo in Grady County. It's the county seat. I graduated from high school and went to school at Florida State University, and I lived in Tallahassee, Florida for quite a few years before I moved to Atlanta in 2000.
Wow, Florida. Why Florida?
So Florida State University is maybe all of 45 minutes from Cairo, Georgia. So
really? Okay.
So it was the largest university, and it was close to home. And I grew up in such a small community, and I knew the same group of kids from preschool all the way through 12th grade. And, and I was extremely sheltered. So I was I wasn't so daring as to want to venture that far from home right out of high school. And it was a very smart thing for me to have done. I don't know, if I had moved far away from home, how I might have fared. So it all worked out. But yeah, I was a little nervous about leaving home and leaving Cairo, Georgia. That I was excited for opportunities, but there was just a level of maturity I didn't have yet.
What was your major in college?
Well, initially, I had dreams of being a broadcast journalist. So I started off studying communications, but then I had an opportunity to meet with some local on-air personalities and get a sense of what the work would be like. And, it just seemed like it was a really challenging field, and a field that as one got older, you wouldn't necessarily fare well in. So, I think that, your on-air career is fairly brief unless you become a big name. So with that being said, so I studied writing some, but when it was all said and done, my major is in political science and international affairs.
I love it. Well, you just certainly fulfill the International Book Club.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
He's just starting.
He's just starting. I'm so excited. And Claire, where did you go on to school when you left?
I'm the opposite of Robert, that I couldn't wait to get out of Memphis. I went to the University of Denver, Communication and Fine Arts, and with an emphasis in theater. And when I was, I'm trying to think, after that, I started in radio in Memphis and did 5 different formats, all music radio, a jazz station. I did non-commercial radio. I did FM 100, which is Clear Channel, and went in across the United States, and I was an intern there. And the country music station, WMC 79, was down the hall. And they said, this is a true story, come here, little girl. We read this script, in this box, and And they went down to the person that hired me, as the intern, and they said, if you're not going to put her on the air, we are. And so let us know. And they said, take her. And so my first on-air gig, the real deal, not non-commercial, was at MC 79, and I did country radio, and I knew nothing about country music at the time. I know it now. I love it now. But I was exposed to, the Judds. I remember the Judds rocking my world. I remember a lot because I had grown up with three other brothers, one of them a guitar player, and he's the guy that found the Dave Matthews Band. He was their first manager.
What?
He played the
Oh
guitar.
my God, I love the
He
Dave
was
Matthews.
8 years old, and
Oh
that's
my
a long,
God.
that's a long story. And I wrote about him in Morning Dove, and so I don't want to blow it for Robert, but yeah, I mean, he was the one. His name was Haynes, and in 91 or so, maybe it was closer to 93. I was in Los Angeles working a band called Better Than Ezra, which was out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And they came out to LA to play the clubs and get a record deal. And I acted as their den mother, agent. Every problem they had, they called me.
How old were you?
Boy, at the time, in I don't know, the early 30s.
Wow.
And so my brother Haynes was living in Charlottesville, Virginia, because he went to UVA and never came back to Memphis. And he was telling me about his friend Dave Matthews, and he was saying, trust me, they're going to be the size of you too. And I was like, yeah, right. And Haynes was right. But he was the one that put the Dave Matthews Band in the car and drove him to Memphis and took him to Ardent Recording Studios and said, I'm going to lay down the first, the demo. And so, and Haynes produced whatever part of that demo that he did. And to this day, he gets credit. And Under the Table and Dreaming was the first album Dave Matthews Band ever put out. And the last song on it was Haynes playing a riff, and they turned it into some kind of musical thing. And it was Haynes's composition. And so Haynes went to heaven in whatever year it was. I think it's been 20 years on, but I still get royalty checks for that, it's still coming on. So, but that's another story. And I base Morning Dove very loosely on the scaffolding of what I knew to be true about the South and growing up with a very charismatic brother and who was a musician. And so that was, all of that was the reason why I was drawn to and aware of, and why I spoke the language of contemporary music, that there was a time when I knew anybody and everybody that was doing anything of significance in music, and music radio will do that for you. And then the record business in Los Angeles, it was a very similar type of environment wherein I was putting the bands, working with them. And part of that and getting a record deal is you're playing in the clubs, Club Lingerie, or, the one on Pico Avenue, or the Coronet, anyway, all these places that were in the Los Angeles music scene, that I would get the A&R people and say, all right, Better Than Ezra is going to be playing at 9:00 on Tuesday night. And they would send their A&R person down there to watch them live, to say, do these people have the goods, and are we all going to make money off of them? And so, it was a very, very interesting time. And Better Than Ezra did end up getting a deal with Elektra Records. And at the time, I was saying to myself, all right, I'm single, I'm in my 30s. If I could do anything, what would I want to do? And the answer was, I want to be a poet in Ireland. And so I bought a round trip ticket to Ireland, and I never went back. And that's how I stayed in Ireland all that time. I was like, look, I don't want to I'd been to Ireland before, but I didn't want to just be a tourist. I wanted to live there and wear it on my skin and be a local. And there's only one way to do that. And so I did that. And the long story short of all of that is that the first novel I ever wrote, I began it and finished it in the year 2000, I believe. Maybe it was 2001. It was one of the two. But it was the second novel that I got published. But I can definitely say to this day, I wrote the story that I wanted to write. I wrote about what it was really like in Ireland, not the leprechauns and the shamrocks and the rainbows. I mean, forget all that. What it's really like to be an outsider. Forget all the campy stuff. Forget all the romanticism in terms of what that experience was like, because I kept a journal there. So that book was called Dancing to an Irish Reel, but the original title was The Spittle Pier. I get the rights back in March of next year, starting Monday, I'm going to rewrite the whole dang book.
Good
I'm
for
going to
you.
give it back its original title. I'm going to make it much more literary fiction than what it is right now. And I still stand by the book. I think if I were, to do it today, I'd do it in a bigger, different way. And I'm trying my hand at that. But I think that, because the story means a lot to me, but I think that it was a prime example of a very, very small press with limited distribution. And I did not have the luxury of the Pulpwood Queens and the community and the people I know now, which it's taken me 4 years to get there. So I'm like nobody that I know that has, read Morning Dove or Little T and kind of have a sense of what they're going to get off of me. Because to each their own, but at least people kind of have a feel for what they're going to get off of me. And so I'm like, well, Dancing to an Irish Reel, I'm going to go back and I'm going to give it my best and hopefully work it through the proper channels where it's going to be positioned to be accessible, if that makes sense. So that's my plan at the moment. That's kind of where things are going.
Okay, I caught Fig.
You certainly did.
Yeah, and this is this is what in the evening he'll jump and sleep on my lap forever, but he's in the wild maniac stage right now. He sees himself in a mirror, so there he goes. But
Well, has he been neutered, Kathy?
Yeah, the cat's completely fixed. It's a girl.
Oh, she's a girl. Okay.
In fact, all three of my cats are girls. I've had both boys and girls, and the boy cats, I always have such a time because they always get bladder infections.
Really?
I've lost more boy cats to bladder infections. And so I've, done a lot of research on it. And it says that, in the wild, cats eat a lot of mice and things that have a lot of water content. And people have the tendency to just give cats dry food. It's very important that you give them wet and dry. So I do that now, and I haven't had any problems with my cat's health since I started doing that. And then, of course, changing their water a lot because they're really used to running water. They're not used to standing water. So they don't really like water that's stale. So you got to change their dish a lot.
A lot. Yeah, I agree. What kind of cat food do you give with the wet?
My friend Barbara gets it for me, and I don't even know what it is. It's some kind of, I think she gets it at Tractor Supply. It's some kind of stuff that she's done I'm telling you, she's a.
Will you find out and let me know?
I'll find out. It's in there. I don't even know what the name of it is, but she gets it for me, and she just bought me a gigantic bag of the kitten. But we, so far so good. The only time I've ever had any problems with my cats here is Rush got outside and got attacked by something, which is real unusual, but it caught him in the eye. And do you know that cats have triple eyelids? They have triple
like
eyelids,
owls.
and it tore it. So it happened right on Christmas Eve 2 years ago, and I ran to the vets. I was the last person to get in, and they had they had to calm the cat down, and they had to literally sew those lids. It was really awful.
So are you saying that cats have lids? Because
three lids? They have three eyelids.
But on either side? I mean, I know that
they have three. If you pull them back, they have three sets of lids, and it caught it in the corner.
I had no idea.
I had no idea. But all I know is when I took the cat to the vet, his eyeball was down in the corner.
Oh.
It was just like, what happened to you? And it's hurting. I ran up there, and I was there on Christmas Eve until 7:30 with them, and I cannot thank them enough. And they saved her eye. They saved her eye. But if I hadn't got there soon, cats, when they get bit by whatever it is, I think it was probably this feral cat that used to come around. They get to what they call infections underneath. What are they called? I'll think of it here in a minute. And they can go septic, and if you don't get them on antibiotics right away. But they said I got him in just in the nick of time. And I said, thank God, because they would have been closed for a week for they were closed from Christmas Eve through New Year's. And I was like, It always happens on a weekend. Why is it?
I know.
It always happens on a weekend. So
That and teeth emergencies.
Mhm.
yeah, well, that's not good either. So we have all of our animal stories, and I love, if you ever get a chance to read a Pulpwood Queen book, that is probably one of the most exceptional books I've ever read about animals and about, it's got an underlying Native American Indian spiritual story being told at the same time. It's The Underneath by Kathy Appel, which won the National Book Award. It's
Oh,
set in East
really?
Texas,
Okay.
East
I'll write
Texas,
that
and it's
down.
The Underneath. It's every person that's an animal lover that reads it. It would be the most beautiful movie in the same way of Old Yeller and all those where the red fern grows. It's a southern tale, and it's about a poacher who lives out on the in the swamps, and he has a dog that he's got chained up under his cabin, and is not treated is treated horribly, a hunting dog, and a cat pregnant crawls underneath there and has kittens, and this dog becomes its protector. Oh, it just makes me cry to tell the
It makes me
story.
cry hearing about it.
It's The Underneath, and it is, everybody I've ever got to read it said that was one of the best books they ever read, but they never cried so much in their life. But it's a wonderful story.
Well, what year was this, Kathy?
It's been it's been a while back. It was back when I had my shop in Jefferson, and I've been here 7 years. So,
Okay.
but Kathy Appel is teaches at the college station, A&M, Texas A&M University, and also up north. She does a sabbatical thing at one of the universities up in somewhere in Boston, New York, somewhere up there. But she's a
Appel?
wonderful, prolific author, and she's a
Okay.
dear, dear friend of mine. Kathy with an I, Appel,
Oh.
Appelt. Wonderful, wonderful story. My Dog Skip by Willie Morris. It is, and then believe it or not, one of the best short stories I've ever read about an animal is called Canticle to a Road Cat, written by Robert James Waller, who wrote Bridges of Madison County.
Yeah.
It's in his short story collection. It's one of the best stories I've ever read.
What's the title again?
Canticle to a Road Cat. And it was in his short story collection. I can't think of the name of it, but it was he wrote 2 anthologies before, short story collections before he wrote Bridges to Madison County. And I actually brought him in a couple of times to the bookstore I used to work at. And so I've read all of his books, and but there's a lot of really great stories out there.
How about this one?
Oh, The Yearling. That was the one I was just going to mention next. That is,
This has got, it looks like an old edition to me.
Wow.
it's one of the best books ever written.
Yeah, I mean, this has got pictures in it.
Wasn't Cross Creek the movie that was done with the Southern?
Like, look at that.
Yeah, I'll have to get my grandson a copy of that. The Yearling. But every animal book that's probably ever been written, Mr. Popper's Penguins, Island of the Blue Dolphins, which that dog in that book, just, that was the best story ever. And then the story that I told in my book, The Pulpwood Queen's Tiara Wearing Book Sharing Guide to Life, was when I was in grade school at Northside Elementary in Eureka, Kansas. Our teachers would read to us after lunch, and they always read animal stories because I guess kids relate to it. But then they started reading the Little House on the Prairie books. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading Laura. They're traveling in their covered wagon with Jack, their dog. And they had traveled a long, long way. And Jack was getting tired. He was grizzled around the face. And I remember my teacher, Mrs. Hall, reading it. And to this day, I still cry because she was reading to us. And then one day, Jack went to lay down, and he turned around 3 times. Dogs do that. And he laid his head down for the last time. And every kid in my classroom, we were all bawling so hard. Mrs.
Oh,
Hall went up and down the aisle handing out Kleenexes, and she couldn't get us to come back, to go on to our next lesson, because, and we said, please don't stop. She goes, we'll continue tomorrow. We need to move on to math or whatever, geography or whatever. But I can remember to this day her reading those words and I being so lost in the story that what a powerful thing that is to plant those reading seeds in a child's mind. So I tell people, if you want to raise a child right, read, 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 read. I did not, my parents never read to me. I think once I remember my mom maybe reading Little Women, but it was my teachers that read to me every day in school until I got into junior high that planted those seeds. And I talk about them all through my book. And my next book, The Pulpwood Queens Goes Back to School, will be talking about the librarians, especially one in particular at the University of Texas, who was an art historian librarian. These stories of how we connect, and I think that when we become a community of readers and we share our love of our animals like we are today, and we share the stories of us as authors telling our stories of our pets, this is the conversation the world needs to be having today. It doesn't need to be putting distance between people. But when we read these stories, we become more kind, we have more empathy, and maybe we can make this world a better place by doing something so simple as Robert, Claire, and Kathy talking about their pets and telling their stories.
that's right.
Absolutely.
So I hope everybody that watches this, because this is going to being recorded and is going to go on my Kathy L. Murphy channel on YouTube. For those of you who didn't come on board, perhaps we will do this again. Maybe Saturday's not a good time, but today I feel like this was the best thing that happened to me.
It's so nice to see you two, both of you. This is great. I'm going down to get, I sprained my ankle during the Pulpwood Queen. I told you that. So I'm going to go down and after a month and have it, make sure that they're going to x-ray it, make sure that I didn't do anything I'm going to be sorry for down the road. So I just want to know. So I have had nothing on my schedule today because I knew Robert was going to grace us at 8 o'clock Los Angeles, Malibu time. And I was looking forward to that. And that was such a wonderful experience to see that. And then Kathy and the pets, I was like, well, I'm just going to center my entire day around this.
It was a good day.
So it's been just like visiting with y'all.
It's absolutely the best thing that could have happened to
me. All right,
me.
I'm going to take this phone call. I'm going to love you and leave you, as they say in Ireland. And I hope to see you both soon.
Okay, bye, Claire. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming. Robert, before we cut off, I just want you to tell everybody you've got this wonderful connection with Claire. I wish she could have stayed for it, but tell the wonderful connection about Claire Fullerton and your up and coming book that'll be coming out in 2022.
Sure. Well, so Claire has been amazing. We actually got to know each other through social media. I'm a fan of her work. I've read Little T and I've just started to read Morning Dove. And she was very kind to me. She messaged me through Facebook and she goes, I have a sense about you. You seem like you're a genuine, good person, and I'm sure a talented writer. And, she goes, I want to share with you all of the things that I wish that someone had shared with me when I was starting out writing. And she has. And we had a virtual coffee. We spoke for over 2 hours. And it's just been such a wonderful friendship. And she, suggested to me, she goes, look, you need to join Kathy Murphy's Pulpwood Queen group.
Glad you did.
It's not just book club, but it's a community of writers. And she says, she told me that she thought that I would fit right in, and she was right. I feel such at home with everyone. So, Claire has been a gift, and leading me to all of you has been such a gift. So, my 2021 is off to a great year, off to a great start.
It is. if we look to all these connections that we're making through the reading of books, it just gives me great hope, doesn't it, you?
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to working with you. I am so excited about your book. I've just about got it finished because I've got the manuscript, everybody, but it will be a 2022 pick. And the cover is glorious. Go to my Facebook page, the International Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys Book Club Reading Nation. I put up the beautiful, it's probably one of my favorite covers I've ever seen because it's just glorious. And you've got a book trailer that's going to be coming out soon. And Claire Fullerton is going to be doing the voice for your.
She is the so the Cicada Tree takes place in, well, it's about not a year that happened in it's about 1956, but it's an older Annalise Newell who's a protagonist looking back on the summer that she turned 11 in 1956. So Claire has voiced that character for me, the narrative for the book trailer. So it's such a special character, someone that I'll carry with me throughout life. So it's so wonderful that someone as special as Claire was willing to voice that for me. She has such a lovely speaking voice, and it was just the perfect accent for the character.
Her voice, when I first heard it, which was a couple of years ago when we had the Girlfriend Weekend Book Club Convention live, I was just literally blown away. I mean, I was just like, and then when I found out she'd done NPR and all this radio, I go, well, that explains it. She's an incredible talent. Both of you I see going to great places. And if there's one thing I will promise you, the Pulpwood Queen will be there with you all the way. Once you're a Pulpwood Queen author, you're always a Pulpwood Queen author. So I will continue on our story and our journey together. So thank you for a pet parade. Your pup still asleep?
I don't hear a peep, so I'm assuming that they are.
We picked this at the worst possible time. Mine have been running through here like banshees, chasing, playing, I call it hiss tag, because they run up together, hiss, and then they run. It's just hysterical. They keep me highly entertained, but we'll do this again. There's no reason why we can't share our pets and get more people on board. But for today, thank you. Tonight, everybody, join me at 6:30 Central Standard Time because the Pulpwood Queen is sharing my favorite, most romantic movies. Tonight, we're going to be watching one of my absolute favorites, Bill Nighy, who is a British actor, is in it, and everything that he's in is gold as far as I'm concerned. But I want you to join me. We'll be talking about it, and it's at 6:30 Central Standard Time. If anybody needs the link, it's up on my Facebook page. I will send it to you. You have to email me. Thank you, Robert, for joining me. If you can, join me tonight. If not, we'll catch you next time. And thank you for having a wonderful Valentine's weekend. It's Robert and Kathy Day.
Absolutely. It's been the best.
It has been. And thank you again to your writers critique group for doing that this morning. We'll have to have you back for a writers club that just kicked off today, everybody. But it'll take me a little while to get this downloaded and up, but yours is already up from this morning. The Writers Club new kickoff program with the International Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys Book Club. Please subscribe and click on that bell icon and it'll send you alert every time a new video comes up. Also join the Pulpwood Queens at www.thepulpwoodqueens.com. So have a blessed and wonderful, safe and sound, happy Valentine's Day, Robert.
Thank you.
I really mean it. And you just have a wonderful time and we'll be in touch, okay?
We'll talk soon.
Okay, big book love. Mwah! Yes. Bye-bye.